Welcome back to Shattering Myths. As we continue to consider Yahushua's testimony relative to his Sermon on the Mount, where he is being emphatic. He is telling those who would listen that there are no gray areas here. You need to be very careful when it comes to who you choose to trust. And he's using fruit trees as a metaphor to explain this. And thus far he's saying, if there's a good source, from that good source you only get that which is beneficial and nutritious. If a source is bad, everything from that source is poison. It's all bad. And that's difficult, and he's going to go and reinforce this statement here. It's difficult for a lot of people to appreciate because they are wants to take the good from the bad. And God's saying don't do that. When it comes to testimony regarding him, don't take the good from the bad. Only take the good. Discard everything associated with the bad, which means you can't take Paul's letters, for example, which are filled with all sorts of dishonest statements, and say, yeah, but there's some things in those that I like, and I'm just going to keep the good and I'll disregard the bad. God's not giving you that option as it relates to forming a relationship with him. And so here's his next statement. He says, any and every tree not producing suitable, fitting, genuine, approved, commendable, and advantageous fruit shall be cut off and done away with, and toward the fire it is thrown. Larry, my guess is here that he's not talking about fruit trees. He's not giving us instructions as to how we should manage our orchard, but instead is saying that if the product that is being offered, if the words that are being spoken aren't genuine, commendable, suitable, fitting, advantageous,
and correct,
that what I think you should do here is, he's not saying take the good from the bad, is he?
No, and in fact, I just had a kind of a debate with a guy that posted the note, and he was saying that there's nothing in the NT, as he put it, that disregarded the Torah. And I said, well, certainly all Paul's letters do. And, after I laid him out there, he really can't debate it. He hasn't said anything.
No.
He brought one thing up that Paul said that was pro-Torah, and I brought up the fact Paul said, well, I lie to gain advantage around the Torah people, even though I don't live under the Torah. And he said that. So, yeah, he said he would just play tricks on you and just lie to you depending on, sound like a politician.
Yeah, it's why in the first hour of the program today I juxtaposed two statements for IQ. One, it says there should be no compulsion in religion, and the other says if a Muslim rejects their religion, kill them. So how do you put those two things together? Because they're obviously directly contradictory thoughts. And the reason I bring that up to your point is that, yes, there are places where Paul speaks highly of the Torah. And there are many more places where Paul says that the Torah and Yahweh's testimony are condemning, that they're impotent, that they're incapable of saving, and that they are enslaving. So the absolute best conclusion you can come to, the most favorable conclusion you can come to, when he says, yeah, the Torah is good, and he says many times the Torah is awful, is that he contradicted himself. When you're choosing who to trust, do you go to the person that contradicts themselves?
No.
No. So that's the best you can do. So I tell Muslims all the time when they try to debate with me in Prophet of Doom, I said, if your answer for all of these fight, kill, enslave, rape verses is to find a verse that is peaceful, then all that does is mean that the Quran is contradictory. How does that, why don't you tell me how that has any merit in you dealing with these thousands of statements that are fight, kill, rape, plunder? And the same thing is true with Paul. So Paul has this thesis that is delivered that says the Torah is evil, the Torah cannot save, the Torah has been done away with, the Torah enslaves. For him then to say in another place the Torah is good, all it means that he can't be trusted.
He clearly said in Corinthians 9:20-22, he said to the Jewish, I came to exist like a Jew in order to take advantage and profit from Jews. To those under the Torah, I acted as if I were under the Torah. Not that I myself actually existed under the Torah in order to take advantage of and make profit of those under the Torah. That's what he said. So he tells us, well, basically, I go out there and lie. Now, I would put it to anybody. Does Yahweh have a spokesperson anywhere in any of his words that has to lie?
Right. Yeah, this is the ends justify the means, is what he's saying. I will deceive people. I'll be a chameleon. I'll pretend to be what I'm not. I'll be that. I'll be the wolf that puts on the sheep's clothing to go in and take advantage of people. That's not godly. You're absolutely right. And so what God is telling us about the tree, that if a tree does not produce suitable, fitting, and genuine approved fruit, I'm calling the Torah an enslaving document that cannot save, that would be a non-commendable fruit. He didn't say you should, your friend that quoted the one verse where Paul promoted the Torah, he's telling you, no, you can't do that. You can't take a statement because you like it out of the mix of bad fruit. He's saying, no, that the source that produces the bad fruit has to be cut down, and it has to be tossed in the fire. Has to be destroyed. So what he's telling you here is that rather than you only looking to Paul for a few things and kind of keeping them in your New Testament, you need to rip it out. You need to discard his letters. That's what he's saying. Burn them. Wow. And it's was not talking about trees there. No, he's not talking about trees. He's talking about what's written on trees, which is paper. But he's not talking about trees. Now, fire is symbolic of divine judgment. So where Yah's light and energy are used to refine and separate good while devouring that which is bad. Fire is not, however, found in Sheol, because the judge is never present in the place of separation. However, en route to Sheol, which is a black hole, we absolutely have fire, because fire is synonymous with judgment. You don't go to Sheol without being judged first. And so what you have here is an emphatic statement that says, I don't want you to do what society is prone to do. So look past the bad and choose the good. I want you to know that if it's a source and it's talking about me, if this is life and death, if this is the choice between knowing me or being part of a religion, you need to discard it. You need to walk away from it. And
by the way, that's no friend of mine. That's just some goofball that friended me on FB that reads posts. And, you get a lot of religious people doing this, sadly. And of course, I really don't tolerate a lot of their nonsense. I mean, this guy just came back with a bunch of Greek, of course. No doubt, not taken off P46, so it's worthless, P46 is Paulus's oldest writings, and they don't look at them.
No.
They do not.
But the most amazing thing about Paul's writings is that while we do have a collection of all of Paul's books that was copied some 25 to 50 years after he wrote them, which is the closest we have really to from any original autograph to a copy. The difference between what Paul wrote as it is laid out in Papyrus 46 versus what we read now in the Nestle Island that forms the basis of an English translation, there's not a lot of difference. So you can't blame.
This is very different.
Yeah, Texas Receptus, well, it's very different, particularly as it relates to the other books. Well, it's really different across the board, but it would be true. But the point I was making really is that you can't blame Paul's animosity against the Torah on copy edits. That's what he said.
Oh, no, that's where the Christians are right.
Yeah, that's what he said.
No, not at all. They're being accurate about it. But there's a lot of defenders of Paul, especially in the Messianic movement and stuff like that, well, he's just being misunderstood. He never said anything bad about the Torah.
Yeah, well,
I call it pornography, I guess.
Yeah, shy of calling it pornography and enslaving and done away with, and incapable of saving.
And wishing those that were under it castrated. That's another sweet gesture.
Yeah, in fact, he goes as far as to say, if you are circumcised, which is the Torah's instructions relative to our participation in the covenant, which is the only way we can be saved. Paul says if you're circumcised, then there's nothing that his religion can do for you. So it is wholly opposed to God's testimony, that is for sure. He even says that the covenant that is presented in the Torah was made with Hagar, and therefore it enslaves. When God says exactly the opposite. He says that the covenant in the Torah, that Hagar and Ishmael were excluded from it, and it was made with Sarah and Abraham. So Paul's position is the opposite of God's. So if one is telling the truth, the other's lying. When we return, we'll continue with Yosha's statements in the Sermon on the Mount. We have Carol on the line. She has a question that we will address as well. Stay with us, Larry. We'll return after the commercial break. Before we continue with the Sermon on the Mount, we have Carol on the line. I understand, Carol, you have a question about all of the various websites that have been responsible for promoting over these years.
Well, actually, your web page where Introduction to God and the book about Paul and everything is. I used to be able to get to it by clicking on the link on your page on GCN, and I haven't been able to do that for months. And I wondered why.
Yeah, I'll have to find out why the link is filled at GCN, but I will tell you that all of our websites have been interconnected. They've all been hosted at Rackspace, and Rackspace has booted us off because of the attacks that Prophet of Doom gets from Muslims. Muslims promote all sorts of malware against Prophet of Doom, and they have finally just ravaged the site. So, and all the sites are interconnected. So at this point, as I understand it, the book that we're covering right now, which is Questioning Paul, questioningpaul.com, is working flawlessly, and that the book Yada Ya, which is at yadaya.com, is the site's up, and you can go through the book there by clicking on the PDFs, and you can read the PDFs of every chapter. And Introduction to God is currently in the midst of being reformed, and so it will be back up and functioning. But we expect that yadaya.com and introdogod.org, both of those two sites, which are interconnected, will be up and effective, completely effective, back on HTML with PDFs available within a week's time. And that Prophet of Doom is a longer, more challenging issue, and don't really know how far out it might be before we have Prophet of Doom back up as it previously was. So those are challenges, and it's all because the sites are interconnected, and Muslims, rather than trying to debate Prophet of Doom, have decided that they would just try to silence it by attacking it.
I understand. So I'm not going to be able to get to any of your sites off GCN.
No, but if you were to just put in your URL bar, your browser, if you were to put in yadaya.com, you'll go, it'll take you directly to it, or introdogod.org, or questioningpaul.com. Any one of those, you can go directly to the site, or you can Google Questioning Paul, it'll take you to the site. You can Google Yada Ya, it'll take you to the site. Or Intro to God, you can Google that, and it'll take you directly to the site.
Great. I just want you to know that I am a total outcast.
Well, that's a good thing.
I started talking about what you're teaching.
Yeah.
I went to a picnic where they were all Christians this last weekend and started talking about this, and I thought they were going to have a heart attack.
Yes. It's difficult for people who are really into the religion to even discuss the truth. It drives them absolutely crazy because, if you were to bring up any one of the issues that prove that Christianity cannot be valid, they have no answer. I mean, when Yosha said, my God, why have you forsaken me?" It can't be God that died on their cross. And so what's their answer for that? They don't have one. You bring up something that says, well, why did all three of the eyewitness accounts of what happened on Bikurim, which was the first day of the week, have no one recognize him? If that's supposed to be the big deal of Christianity is that, he was bodily resurrected, how is it that the people he was closest to didn't even have a clue who he was? Why do Christians celebrate Christmas and Easter when there's no mention of either anyone from God? Why do they call their God Jesus when that name wasn't even invented until the 17th century?
I know.
Yeah, it just goes on and on. Christ is not a last name. You won't find Jesus or Christ written in any pre-Constantine manuscript.
Well, it's all so simple to me.
It is so simple. Here's Yosha saying, don't think for a moment that I came to do away with the Torah, and you've got Paul and Christians believing the Torah's been done away with.
Right.
Now, how can you be a follower of this individual who says, don't think I have come to do away with the Torah, and yet you think the Torah has been done away with?
I think their group is what keeps them in it.
Yeah, I think so too. They reinforce one another. That's the whole nature of faith. Faith only works in an environment where people reinforce one another's faith and where they outcast anyone who is willing to inject truth into the discussion. We'll be back after the commercial break. In addition to Larry, we now have Nick with us. And Nick, I must have piqued your interest as I was talking about Yosha saying, oh, my God, why have you forsaken me? Hello, and good to have you back, Nick.
Good evening, or good afternoon. Yeah, I wanted to ask that question a long time ago. Every time I listen to it, forget it. And so this time you reminded me.
Okay, well, good. So you want to know why he said that and what it means?
No, not why. You already explained it many times, and I understand why. I want to know, where did he where did he get the quote from, and I wanted to know entire text of where he quoted from, so then I wouldn't get it from from that one. I want to know the whole thing. Where it says that, and why is it so?
Yep.
And everything.
The answer is he's quoting what's called now. They didn't used to be numbered, but he's quoting what we know now as Psalm 22. And I've written an entire chapter on why he quoted Psalm 22. And it does begin with, my God, why have you forsaken me? And I know you know the answer, but what I want to do here is invite you, Nick, if you'll send me an email at yada@yada.com, just YADA at yada, YADAYAH.com. Since the sites are kind of glitchy at the moment, I will send you a Word document of that particular chapter. Because it is extremely revealing. What it does, Nick, is that it first of all explains that, as you know, and I'm going to say some things here that you already know the answer to, but there's other listeners that are newer to the program that may be curious. The reason that Yosha said, my God, why have you forsaken me, is twofold. One is that God can't die. God isn't even associated with death. So God can't die. So he left a man and his soul on the upright pole there. And the man's body then became the sacrificial lamb to fulfill Passover. And his soul then went into matzah to fulfill the promise of unyeasted bread, to ransom our souls. So that's why that had to occur. So God didn't die for our sins. God can't die. But the other reason that he quoted that psalm is that psalm provides an eyewitness account as to exactly what was happening and why it was happening. That's why I'll send you the chapter. You'll find it really an interesting read, because God goes through great lengths to explain exactly what was happening to him then and what was going to happen to him the next day on Matzah, and then how he would live out and celebrate the promises of being the firstborn child on Bikurim. And it's all contained prophetically in Psalm 22. And here I'm telling you, Nick, that it's an eyewitness account. Well, it was an eyewitness account written 1,000 years before it happened. Because
Yashayahu also says the same thing. He talks about his soul going in to redeem, family, acting as a ransom. That's what it says.
Yeah, there's three places where it's described. One is in Yashayah 53. One is in Psalm 88. And the other is in Psalm 22. All three explain exactly what was happening on each of those 3 days. It's just that the reason that he quoted Psalm 22 is that Psalm 22 is the most complete presentation of precisely what was occurring. And it's the beauty of prophecy, because in prophecy from Yahweh's perspective isn't predicting what's going to happen. It's reporting what has already happened from his perspective, because he's not constrained in the ordinary flow of time. Did I do an okay job of answering your question? Or
you did okay. I mean, I guess I'll read more detail about it after I'll send you on email.
Okay. It's one of my favorite statements, Nick, because what it does is first of all, it completely destroys the myth of Christianity, because Christianity says God died for your sins. And you say, wait a minute, God can't die. And his statement, my God, why have you forsaken me, demonstrates that God left him on the upright pole. So God wasn't there at the conclusion of Passover. So it completely destroys the basis of Christianity. And anytime God says something that destroys religion, I think it's an important thing for us to share.
Can I point something out here?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
One of the things that's pretty incredible, too, is when he says, my God, that's written L as in singular.
Yeah, it is.
And then the very next verse, the very next passage in this Mizmor psalm, it goes to Elohim. So the set-apart spirit is already back with the Father at this point in one passage.
Yes.
So it goes from El, my God, to Elohim.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's he's making the distinction that at that point the set-apart spirit is with him, and then the set-apart spirit goes back to the Father, making turning the title El into Elohim from singular to plural. God's very precise in his communications. The other thing that I like about this too is that Nick, is it specifically itemizes what part of Yahweh and Yahusha are contributing to the fulfillment of each of these mikra. Because on Passover, it's only the physical body. And so the spirit left, because it's only the physical body that endures the carnage of Passover as the sacrificial lamb. And that physical body, according to the Torah, is destroyed that night. It's eradicated with energy.
One other thing I'd like to add there, it's not just that God cannot die. That's absolutely true. That's what Jabba talks about. But also that Sheol is defined by an absence of the presence of Yahweh.
Right.
So Yahweh's spirit cannot be in Sheol.
Right. Yeah, and it's the soul. That's the second part of this. The soul, which is usually the means that we determine whether someone is alive or dead. Yosha's soul did not die on the upright pole. His soul went from the upright pole from the body into Sheol, and went to Sheol to ransom us from our sin, from our religious and political rebellion. And then on first fruits, on firstborn children, Yahusha's soul and Yahweh's spirit are reunited, and that's the celebration of firstborn child. So you can see that Yahweh, who is spirit and offers us the set-apart spirit and the physical body of the Passover lamb, and the soul, which is the consciousness, all played a role in how each of them contribute to the fulfillment of God's plan to resolve our issues, our sin. It's a marvelous story, and it's so rational, it's so moral, so logical. You know, Nick, one of the things that the previous caller, Carol, said is, it just makes so much sense to me. And you seem like a fellow, ever since we began talking, almost 2 years ago now, that you like evidence and reason, and things that make sense resonate with you.
I have one more question.
Yes.
But see, that's probably would be the last question. Or maybe it's a concern and not a question, but
okay.
It's just one last thing that separates me from becoming a part of a family.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sort of afraid of asking it or telling you that, because after that there'll be no other.
Yes.
Well, step up to the plate. Straight answer.
Yeah. Don't be concerned. Don't be concerned, man, because we've both Larry and I, we were bad dudes in terms of we were hugely religious and hugely political. So we've got lots of skeletons in our closet. So you're not going to embarrass ourselves with us.
Like the Christians have that warm and fuzzy feeling of just believe and
right.
Saved.
Yeah.
And I have something similar, except not like Christians. My belief, I think I even told you something.
Yes, you did.
So what I'm afraid is that if I will become part of the family, and after the death, I will join the the Creator up in heavens. What will happen actually, that I will be able to access to a knowledge that only Yahweh can provide, and not to be able to, go to a school next door or to learn something from a neighbor kid.
Okay. So what you're saying is that you think that
that would be the
eternity...
only source,
Right.
I'm afraid that it will not be enough. I want
Satisfying. Okay.
I
I
don't
like
want to be separated, or I don't want to be, to just have one
source.
Source.
Yeah.
I want more. I want a lot
Yeah.
more.
So,
Okay.
That would be the only thing.
No, wait, Larry.
Not more than a neighbor knows.
No, I like Larry's. No, I like Larry. I like Nick's point of view here. I know, and we know Yahweh personally, and we know he has a great deal to offer. But Nick, let me give you the answer to that question. I enjoy talking with you. I learn things when I talk with you. My thought processes are developed when I talk with you. I would like it in eternity to be able to continue to talk to you, to learn from you, and just to enjoy a conversation with you. And, I like Larry. I learn things from Larry. And there are so many people that I have encountered along life's way that I really enjoy learning from and talking to. And, that's the beauty of the covenant. And I want you to stay on through the last segment, Nick. You as well, Larry. Is the beauty of the covenant is we all are going to participate together. The larger the family, the more rich the experience is going to be. We still go in to eternity with the opportunity to share and know and explore with one another. Welcome back to the final segment of Shattering Myths for today. We still have Larry and Nick with us. Nick, if...
before you answer this one, see, I understand that it probably wouldn't be possible to fit all that answer in like last 6 minutes that we have left on the show, and so I have one more question, and that would be probably the easier one for you to get, and then I listen to podcasts, and so I'd give you guys more time, and then you can explain it to you, and Larry will have his chance too. So then
actually, Nick, Nick, I can do it in 1 minute.
Oh?
The very essence of us is our nesama. It's our consciousness, our nesama. It's our unique soul. That unique soul has unique perceptions and attitudes and approaches. One of the reasons I never try to tell somebody you have to agree with me is because I like it when we disagree. I like it when we can view the same words from a different perspective. And we're going to be able to do that in eternity. And your unique perspective enriches eternity.
Isn't Yahweh and Satan in disagreement?
Yahweh and Satan are in disagreement, but they're in disagreement over a subject that is very different than you and I talking about. Gee, I wonder how the solar system works. I wonder how atoms work. I wonder how all of this fits together. I wonder what the thought process was for that life form. All the kinds of stuff that'd be fun to discuss. What Satan wants to do is to deceive regarding who Yahweh is and how we form a relationship with him. That's not the kind of stuff that we're going to have any interest in discussing in eternity. Why would you want to discuss something you know Yahweh personally? You've had the opportunity to spend as much time with him as you want. Why would you want to discuss? Well, I think I'm going to corrupt who he is. And that's just not something we'd ever want to discuss. That's why Satan's off there, and he's not going to be in. But the rest of us who are there, every imaginable thing that we would want to discuss from our own unique perspectives and add to the discussion is why we're there. It would be absolutely boring for God to have to spend eternity with us if all we could do is listen to him for eternity. He wants us to be rascals and creative and fun and offer our own unique experiences.
I have a lot more to say about it, but this one I really need to know. In case I do decide to become a part of a family, would help me to understand, is the Sunday have to be the day when you learn or read the Torah and
It's actually the Saturday. The Shabbat begins Friday evening at sunset. It ends Saturday evening at sunset.
So then Saturday and to a Sunday?
It's the Shabbat, which is a time to just, all God says is on the Shabbat, which begins on Friday evening at sundown. In fact, Larry and I will be doing our Shabbat show this evening at 7:30 Eastern Time. We do it on Blog Talk Radio, it's Yada Yada Radio. Larry and I do it together.
So if I have to work that day, or would that?
The idea is to make the Shabbat special and to spend make that day unique so that you spend time with Yahweh. Once you're a member of his family, if you have to work on an occasional Shabbat, God's not going to kick you out of the family because you worked on occasional Shabbat. So long as your mindset is, all right, God came up with a plan. The Shabbat's important to him because it's the seventh day. It represents promise. And the seventh day begins in our calendar on Friday at sundown and continues through Saturday at sunset. And I'm going to set apart that day to the greatest ability possible to be a special time for me, for my family, for our relationship. It's not every bit of the instruction of the Torah is not a gotcha where God is saying, boy, if you Nick, I'm watching you now. If you work on that Sabbath, I'm going to get you.
If I do it whenever I can, as long as it's one day a week, would that be fine?
Yeah, he really does want you to do it on his schedule, which is the Shabbat. And we can, in fact, why don't we do this, Nick? One day next week, why don't you call in and we'll pursue what the Shabbat means and what God is asking of us. Thank you for calling.